Hello, Computer Science 213 students. My name is Derek, and I am one of your TAs for this upcoming term. So what I have for here is I have a quick presentation about introduction to Linux, why you should care, and how you can set up your environment to succeed in Computer Science 213. Before I get started, I just want to note that a lot has changed, right? And you may be watching this from any one of quite a few time zones. And as a part of our plan for CompSci 213, we want to ensure that you as a Computer Science 213 student have the best experience possible taking the course, which includes thinking of new things like this video over here that might be able to substitute some of the face-to-face communication that you would have got otherwise. So we really appreciate your feedback on everything we do, and if this is useful for you, we would love to know. So all right, let's get started. So introduction to Linux for CompSci 213 students. So the very first reasonable question you may have is, what the heck is Linux? So Linux is a family of operating systems. So Windows and Mac OS are classic examples of operating systems. And members of Linux family satisfy exactly the same basic need. So why should you care about Linux? And why should you learn about how to work in a Linux environment? Well, the best answer to that is that the majority of servers run Linux. Wait, what the heck is a server? So a server is just really a fancy word for a computer that is running typically somewhere else. So you can think of this as when you go to Google, for example, and you search up something on Google search, your browser is communicating with a server, a Google server, somewhere else around the world, and that server is most likely running Linux. And unlike Google, our CompSci department servers also run Linux. And what you see here is this is a screenshot of what running Linux on the server is like, and this is me connecting to the server. And we'll get to that in a bit. And in CompSci 213, this is important because all your assignments will be handed in through our department's Linux servers. So I hope I convinced you that it's important for CompSci 213. So let's get started and get you installing whatever you need to get this working. So you're gonna need a couple of things. So the first thing you'll need is something called an SSH client. So SSH is just the mechanism we use to connect to those remote servers so that we can do things in this remote environment. And if you notice here, in here the remote server is saying, did you know there are other servers you can SSH to? Because SSH is the mechanism we use to connect to servers and execute commands. Another optional thing you may need is something called an SFTP client. SFTP is what's used to transfer files from your local computer all the way to the server. So let's get to installing stuff. So if you're running Windows, the department recommends that you download Xmanager. And Xmanager, there are a few instructions on how to get it and how to install and how to configure it. And Xmanager includes two things: Xshell, which is an SSH client, and XFTP, which is an SFTP client. So by downloading Xmanager, you'd have almost everything you need to connect to a server and to transfer files through. I'm omitting a few details, and if you face trouble going through that, feel free to post on Piazza and we can help you with that. If you're running a Mac, SSH is natively installed on your Mac. So I'm running Windows here, so I can't show you. However, in a Mac, you can test that out by going to the top right. There should be a search bar. You can search for terminal, and then you open the terminal, and then you can type SSH in the terminal and press enter. Once you do that, you should get some usage information about how to use the SSH command. For SFTP, you can download something like CyberDuck or FileZilla. CyberDuck is an SFTP client. It allows you to transfer files between your own computer and the remote server. The reason I'm not going into details with those is that I want to go into detail with my own recommended setup that I've seen other students use in the past and succeed in. And that is using something called Visual Studio Code. You can download Visual Studio Code through their website, and you can see here that Visual Studio Code is a code editor. And if you're taking 210, you work with IntelliJ, and IntelliJ is something called an IDE, Integrated Development Environment. Code editors are more lightweight. They don't contain the compiler or anything like that IDEs include. However, Visual Studio Code has a lot of amazing extensions that help you work with a variety of programming languages, and good for us, help you connect to a remote server. So you can download it through this, or you can choose your platform. Once you've got that installed, you should go ahead and install the Visual Studio Remote extension. So you can install it through this link, or you can install it natively on Visual Studio itself. And then from there, you should be able to configure your UBC server using the remote extension. And I'll show you how that is done right here. So this is my Visual Studio Code. And after I downloaded the remote extension, this thing on the left pops up, which is a Remote Explorer. You see I already have a few things here, but first things first, make sure that this says SSH targets, again, because we're doing SSH. And then what you'd want to do is click this plus here to add new. It's going to prompt you to insert a command. And then from there, you can copy this SSH cwl remote students.cs.ubc.ca command, obviously substituting CWL with your actual CWL. I've already done that, so I'm not going to do that. But once you input that, it's going to prompt you for your password. You're going to input that password, and you press enter. The password may be invisible, so don't worry if you don't see it actually moving along. That is totally fine. Once you've configured that, this thing will pop up on the left saying remote.students.cs.ubc.ca. And what you can do is you can then click this plus, tiny plus, next to it, which is connecting to host in new window. It's going to launch a new window for you. And then it's going to ask you for your password. It asks me for a passphrase because I have something else set up, but for you, it's going to ask you for a password. And here you're already logged in. And you can check, because this says connected to remote. From there, open a folder. You can choose a folder here that you already have. But what I suggest is just choose your home folder as is. Click OK. It's going to reload, asks you for your password again. Input that again. And now you're in the remote server. So the setup here is that on the left here, you'll have all your folders. On the bottom will be a terminal. And in the middle here will be where you edit your code. We'll be mostly working with a terminal here today. So you can create a new terminal by clicking this plus over here. Or if this bottom part doesn't show up, you can go terminal, click new terminal over here. And we'll get back to this in a second. So we'll minimize this. I'll be back in a second. So once that is done, you are connected to the server. You can start celebrating. You've connected to your first Linux server. And let's have some fun with it. So we'll start off by playing around with some commands and exploring our development environment. So again, this is your terminal. The way the development environment works is this is your username, and then this is at the machine name. And then this gives you the current path from your home directory. And the tilde represents your home directory. And tilde is this character over here. The way the environment works is that you have a current folder. So you can think of this as if you are on Windows Explorer or Finder in Mac, you're inside a folder. And then you can double click on other folders and go in. You can go back to the previous folder, can go into a folder and click a file, and you can do all that, but then you start off from a specific folder. And there are a few useful commands you can use. The first useful command is ls. And what ls stands for is lists, and it lists all the folders and files that you have in your current directory, the folder that you're currently in. You can see here it prints all the folders and files that I have over here. The next useful command is cd, and cd is change directory. And you can think of this as double-clicking a folder in Windows or in Mac. So in here, I'm going to cd to cs-213. And I'm inside that folder, and if I do an ls, again, to check the contents, you're going to see that it prints those few things, and those are the things that I have over here inside my folder. One thing that is very useful is cd dot dot, and what cd dot dot does, it takes you back one step out. So you can think of this in Windows as if clicking the back button, something like that. So cd dot dot takes me back, and if I ls, I'm back into this directory. The next couple of useful commands here are the pwd, which is print working directory, and this prints the path from the root of the computer or the server all the way to where you are right now. So in here, you'll notice it prints home, t, and then my username, which is like the home is the root of the server, and it prints all the way to my username. And if I go into C213, print working directory, is going to print all the way to where I am at right now. The next useful command is the cat command, which stands for concatenate, but it prints the contents of a file. For example, I have a hello.c file here, and for demonstration, I'll have this open over here. So when I run cat hello.c, you're going to see that it prints the contents of that file over here in the terminal. And if I change this, and let's say add a comment saying hello from C, and let's save. And then we cat it again, and you're going to see that it says hello from C now, because the cat just prints. There are quite a few other commands that you can learn and use, like make directory to create a directory or a folder. You can use touch to create a file, cp to copy a file from one place to another, rm to remove a file, rm-rf to remove a folder and all of its content, and there's tons and tons of others, all very useful. However, since we're using VS Code here, it allows us to do a lot of those things without having to worry about the commands themselves. But I do suggest that you start getting familiar with the commands here, as you'll be using them quite often. The next more important question is what you need for ComSci 213 in order to be successful, and specifically in order to be able to hand in your assignments. So what you need is two major things. What you need is a folder named CS213 in your home directory. So that is over here. You notice that I have a folder named CS-213. And what you need, the second thing you need is that a folder named A1 for assignment 1 and A2 for assignment 2 and so on, but you don't need to create those just yet. A folder named A1 for assignment 1 right under the ComSci 213. So similar to this tiny little diagram over here. And with each assignment, we will be providing you the list of deliverables, and you'll be placing those deliverables inside this A1 folder. And the last thing is, how do you hand in? So in order to hand in, and this is after you've placed your folders inside the correct assignment directory, you would run hand in CS-213 and then A1 or A, the number of that assignment. And this should hand in your assignment. You see here it says that's the assignment. It's blocked because this is the summer's dates. If you've already handed in and you want to overwrite your submission, you add a -O. So you do this: hand in -O CS-213 A1. To run it, again, it fails because this is set up for the summer. So yes, that is all. Thank you for listening to this, and again, I want to reiterate that a lot has changed, and there are a few things that we're doing for the first time in this course, and we would love to hear your feedback. And specifically about this, this video and presentation, if this was useful for you, we would love to know. And I would personally love to know so that maybe I can create more of those videos if they are helpful. If you have any questions, let us know. TAs are here for you. We are here to help. And also feel free to drop me an email. This is my email over here. And I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Right.